Throughout history, attitudes towards wilderness have not always been favorable. Regarded as places of darkness, mystery, wild beasts, and confusion, the beauty of nature was seen only in what was useful. It wasn't until much more recently that these places were widely considered beautiful and necessary for simply being what they are. Many people, including us, seek to visit these wild places, to appreciate them, and to catch a glimpse of what an untamed world might look like. Our Denali Highway adventure started out near Paxton, Alaska, at the east end of the old Denali Highway. This road was the original access to Denali National Park until the new Parks Highway was opened in 1971. This historic road is paved for the first few miles, but turns to dirt after that and is closed to through traffic in the winter. Shortly after turning onto the road, we found a 2-track down to 7 Mile Lake and set up camp for a few days. We had the place to ourselves and couldn't be happier with the stunning views of the Alaska mountain range, beautiful lake, and minimal bugs that allowed us to be outside without bug protection.
And we are wild like a river, wild like the fire in your veins makes you shiver. And I chase the winter out of my mind like the dark in the distance.
We were getting close to the summer solstice, so evenings were getting very short, which meant we were getting lots of sun. We set up our 100-watt portable solar panels, and even though the sun was at quite a low angle, our 300-watt system was able to make up most of our power needs, unless of course it rained, which seemed to be a regular afternoon occurrence here. We have lived off-grid for almost this whole trip, and the extensive charging system and our battery install have been meeting all of our power needs to work and live on the road without the need for a generator. Having power whenever we want, without breaking the gentle sounds of nature, had been making our stays very pleasant.
So Caitlin's been cutting my hair for 11 years, we decided. And I've gotten some haircuts in some really cool places. This one's up there. This one's definitely up there.
Continuing on down the road, there were not many services or amenities, save a few cabins and remote tour guides. We enjoyed stopping for a hike here and there, touring down random 2-tracks, and enjoying the unique geology of this drive. One interesting piece of geology is Crazy Notch, which the road runs through. This is a cut through a lateral moraine, made from when a glacial stream flowed off the McLaren Glacier here. Another is when the road runs atop a few eskers. These natural roadbeds were formed when sediment deposited from streams that ran through and underneath glaciers of the past. The road runs along the south end of the Alaska Range, and if the weather is fair, provides amazing views for almost the entire drive. Most of the land here is BLM and public, so there are plenty of spots to take campers, motorcycles, and off-road vehicles. With the road in good shape, there was quite a bit of traffic doing the same thing we were. The east side of the road runs through high-elevation tundra with unique and beautiful stunted plants, and the west side runs through northern boreal forest. While we found road conditions on the Denali Highway to be okay, we had heard that due to the low traffic, maintenance is minimal, and the road can sometimes get gnarly. Because of this, many Alaskan rental companies will not allow you to take rented cars or RVs down this road. Passing over a few major drainages from the mountains and majestic lakes, this road gives you access to some amazing Alaskan wilderness.
Fish for dinner.
At the west end of the road, we exited onto the park's highway near Cantwell, where a short drive to the north took us to the entrance of Denali National Park and Preserve. Denali National Park and Preserve is a tract of 6 million acres that at its center is home to North America's tallest peak. Denali, meaning the Great One, was the name by which the native Athabascan people called the mountain. The entrance to Denali can be accessed by car, plane, or the Alaska Railroad that runs from Anchorage to Fairbanks. Our first stop at the park was to get checked into our campground and visit the main visitor center near the entrance to learn about how visiting this park works, which is a little bit different than other national parks we've visited. The park only has one 91-mile-long road to access the interior, but you can only drive the first 15 miles in your private vehicle unless you are staying in a campground or have a pass. To transit the park, you need to buy a bus pass for the day, but there is one exception. Teklanika Campground is partway into the park, and if you stay there, you can buy what is called the Tech Pass. This pass allowed us to get on and off the buses at various stops for the duration of our stay. The catch is, you cannot drive your vehicle out of the campground until your departure, or you forfeit the rest of your stay.
We spent 5 nights at the Teklanika campground and we loved every minute of it. We had the Tech Pass, which allowed us to hop on and off the buses the whole time we were there. We weren't really sure about how the bus system was going to work at first, but as soon as we started using it, we understood why they implemented that in the park. With the sheer number of people who visit, it would be a traffic nightmare in that park, and it really would have degraded from the remote wilderness feel that you get going into this park. In addition to the amount of traffic, it would have just been terrifying to make some of the drives ourselves. The roads can be really narrow at points, and it's all gravel. And there's this one part in particular called polychrome where you just have sheer cliffs down the side, and it would be pretty scary to drive it yourself. The other fun thing about riding the bus are the bus drivers themselves. A lot of them have their microphones on and they're constantly telling you stuff about the park, telling you stories, and they're looking out for wildlife. When they do see wildlife, or anyone else on the bus sees wildlife, the bus drivers stop the bus, they turn it off, and everyone on the bus like crams to one side or the other with their phones or their binoculars and cameras to get a glimpse of it. And it makes it like a community experience, which is kind of fun. If you happen to catch the same bus driver in the same day or another day that you're there, it's really fun to kind of build up a relationship and have them recognize you for that brief period that you're there. We had one bus driver multiple times named Dale, and he definitely added to the memorable experience of Denali for us.
No cars, no trailheads, no trails for miles and miles. This park encourages you to hike and explore off-trail. It's hard to describe the feeling of hiking without a specific goal or direction.
Hiking in a place without a whole lot of designated and developed trails was at first a little nerve-wracking, especially for me. Tom's a little bit more adventurous and wants to just hike off trail all the time, but I do like having a trail. I like, knowing where I'm going, and in Denali, you don't really have that. We went on a couple of discovery hikes, which are led by rangers, and that really helped me get comfortable with hiking off trail, and we'd recommend it to anybody else who's not so sure about that. But you have a ranger basically guide you through an area of the park, and you're able to ask them questions, and they're able to tell you more about the park than you maybe would have just hiking it on your own. After that, we were a lot more comfortable exploring off trail, and it really opened it up to us. You know, we weren't stuck on a trail. We could go wherever we wanted, and now that freedom was something that we really hadn't experienced before.
The weather in Denali is very dynamic. We had warm and sunny days, and some of the heaviest rain we have seen on our trip. Surprisingly, we even had some powerful thunderstorms roll through, and even had a bolt of lightning strike very near one of our buses. We learned that lightning in this area of the park is only a recent occurrence. Alaska's weather is warming faster than the global average, and these thunderstorms are evidence of this. Denali is changing rapidly as the climate has a dominant influence on the ecology of the park. Much research is being done here to understand and predict the impact of this milder weather. One of the most iconic parts of our trip was seeing the mountain, which is only visible for about 30% of the time.
We weren't really worried about seeing Denali, the mountain, when we went, because it does have a 30% show rate, and we were going to be there for 5 nights, so we thought our chances were pretty good. But after like the second day, third day, we were really starting to get worried that we weren't going to see the full mountain. We had seen little glimpses of it, like the little peak up above the top of the clouds, or maybe like one side of it here, and you know, you can kind of guess at what it looks like, but it's usually covered in clouds. When it did come out, it was a really big deal. The bus driver pulled off and let everyone get off the bus to take pictures and look at it, so we all had a great view, and everyone was just buzzing about it for the rest of the day. This mountain is undescribably big. It just towers above everything around it, and the things around it are really tall mountains. They're like 10,000-foot mountains, and this is just like, it's just incredible to see. Literally 30 minutes later, it was shrouded in clouds again. That's how brief of a window we had to see it. So it was really, really special.
Because there is so little human interaction, it's almost hard not to come across animals that call this park home.
The wildlife is definitely something that attracts a lot of people to Denali, and you're almost guaranteed to see it because the bears are pretty visible out on the tundra. There's not a lot of cover to hide them, and that's where they like to hang out. So we saw lots of bears. We even saw a couple of moose. The caribou are pretty prevalent, and the bus drivers typically know where the animals like to hang out. And so if they saw it somewhere the day before, they can anticipate where they're going to be the next day, and they can make you ready to spot it. And when you've got, 30 pairs of eyes on a bus instead of just your own, it really increases your chances of seeing it. I loved seeing all the wildlife, especially from the safety of the bus. There was one point where there was a bear in the road, and it was amazing to see a bear up that close. But I was so thankful to be inside the safety of that bus. On one of the discovery hikes, we got up real close and personal with a herd of doll sheep. This was a group of sheep that was just the moms and the females and the little babies, and they call this group a nursery. So the rams are off in another area doing their own thing, and this nursery stays high up in the mountain peaks to keep the little ones away from predators, mainly wolves.
Many would guess this park was formed to protect the mountain, But in fact, it was these mountain sheep that were being overhunted that encouraged big game hunter and conservationalist Charles Sheldon to petition for the protections of this land. The park was formed in 1917 and has protected this sheep and the surrounding ecosystem ever since. During the early days of the park, dog sleds were the primary means of transportation and were used to gain access in the winter and run off poachers. This means of transportation is still the primary overland means of park access in the winter, and Denali is the only national park with an active dog sled team that gives daily demonstrations and even lets you pet some of the pups.
You guys smell sled puppies on us?
In our travels, we've been to quite a few national parks now, and going to Denali was amazing, and I would definitely say that it's now one of our top 5 national parks that we've ever been to. This place is so big and it's so vast, and the undevelopedness of it just makes you feel so small and just makes all of life's challenges seem so small, and it's just relaxing and freeing. It's one of those places that, since it's so undeveloped, that you can really see what wilderness would look like untouched and allowed to stay wild. It was really magnificent, and I feel like it's really important that that place stays wild and that we protect that area, because it is a really special place.
We are wild. We are wild like a river, wild like the fire in your veins makes you shiver, and